Hey guys, Ace Ginger here, and this is going to be the first of a 4-episode series that is going to be detailing how to do some of the different parts and components of building. So, this is going to be a pretty general tutorial, and what I'm going to be talking about in this one is atmosphere, but for future episodes I'm going to be doing purpose, style, and detail. And those are the 4 elements that Jamsy Boy Minecraft looks at builds for, and I happen to agree with his assessment, as those are, in my opinion, the main 4 things, and everything can be categorized into those 4 things. So, well, without further ado, I'm going to start with atmosphere. So, my builds, I personally think anyway, are heavily focused on atmosphere. That's like my thing. So if you walk around and stuff, everything is very detailed. I mean, and it also, by the way, guys, everything's going to kind of overlap a little bit. There's always overlap. You know, detail can kind of fit into style, or style can also kind of have to do with atmosphere. It's all interconnected, so keep that in mind. But anyways, so as you can see, there's tons of stuff going on. There's lots of greenery. There's lots of grass everywhere. There's colors here and there. There's just nice stuff, and then there's bushes and that kind of thing. So I'm going to be going through some of the specific stuff. So first of all, I'm going to be doing trees here. So as you can see, I've used trees here. These are just Minecraft big trees. I didn't make custom trees for this particular map, but these are here. And the important thing with trees is, first of all, make sure you actually use them. Do not be the guy who builds your entire city and, oh, it's really cool, but it doesn't have any trees in it. That is surprisingly, when I first started building, I did not think about that. It didn't even occur to me to put trees in the map, and I could not build anything that I thought looked good. I couldn't build groups of structures that looked good at all, because there's no green or anything. It was weird. So I would recommend building trees, and one nice thing you can do with trees is you can always you can use them to kind of block viewpoints. And you might think, oh, why would I want to block a view? Well, that adds atmosphere, because like you can see here, these 2 trees are right in the way, and this here, that dock you can see over there, that's just there, and that adds a sense of adventure. I mean, you can see a little bit, but it makes you wonder, oh, what's over there? If you can see all of it, you might not go over there, or you might not be as interested, or it might not be as interesting in general. So, yeah, and right now I'm not even planning this totally. I only have a list of stuff I need to go through, but like that's a great example. I'm just kind of walking around. And so here's another example where I didn't do it. Now it also looks good here, even without the tree. But the idea is that you don't, you want to block stuff sometimes, and you want to leave it open at other times. I can't quite explain to you how to best know that, but a general rule is not to do either one all of the time. I generally block things most of the time, but like right here, see the boats over there, but from over here you can only see parts of it, and it just makes it more interesting. Same thing with this lighthouse over in the distance, which I need to update. But yeah, so next thing that I want to talk about here quick is bushes. Now bushes are pretty much the same deal as trees, but these are a little different because you can put them into smaller, more compact areas. For example, right over here I put bushes as well. And bushes I also didn't add until much later into building, but I find that they are very useful in adding green and life into cities, especially in spots where really there isn't space for anything else, because like right here there's not room for a tree. Obviously I couldn't put grass here without making it weird, so bushes are excellent. So bushes are very important in building, and a lot of times what I'll do is I'll throw vines on them. Some people like that, some people don't. I personally do, so I kind of use it. I didn't use them here, I guess, but yeah. So, and also everyone's bush style tends to be different. I may actually do a greenery tutorial in and of itself some other time, but essentially you can look at these examples and use them accordingly. So another thing that I want to talk about is grass and green colors in general. I've sort of touched on the green colors part with the green leaves and trees and things, but it's very important to have grass and just green in general in your city. And again, this was really surprising to me, because the difference after I put this in as to before. But like right here, there's green right next to the road, and it makes this road feel like it's a real road, because if you're walking through here, there wouldn't necessarily be a wall here to prevent you from going into the grass, and it wouldn't just be a straight cutoff, especially in a medieval city. It's different for other kinds of building, of course, but for a medieval city especially, where everything's going to be more or less run down shape all the time, it's very important. So here's all this stuff then. And then again, I've randomized the roads into the grass as well. And so that's just another thing you can do to make sure, like here it just looks like, you know, the road's in disrepair and stuff, but you can't do that if you don't use the green. You could try using cracked stone bricks, but it doesn't have the same effect, like the nature is reclaiming that area slowly. So that's just another really important thing. Along with that, I just want to quick talk about also up against water. A lot of times with a river, everyone's going to try and use some sort of canal, and honestly, those are really cool. I really like canals or like walls up against water and stuff, but it doesn't always make sense, especially depending on what you're going for. In an urban city, it might make sense to put the main river or the only river, depending on stuff. It might make sense to have that be a canal, honestly. I'm not dissing canals, but I need to say that, like right here, this is a very natural landscape, and because there's lots of green and stuff, it makes it feel a lot more atmospheric. And there's trees and stuff blocking the horizon and things. It's really neat. And I always try to look up at everything to judge atmosphere. If you look down at everything, sometimes you can still see the atmosphere, but this city is meant to be built so that you can walk around through it. It's meant to be viewed from above, but it's meant to be played through from below. So it's important to always look at everything from low angles as well as high angles, just so you can kind of see stuff. And like these little docks here, like the one over there and the one here, these are really nice. And you can't quite do these with canals, because then the wood is, you know, it's still man-made stuff. The wood contrasts with the grass because it's man-made versus nature. When there's a canal, it's just man-made, so it makes sense. Also, historically speaking, they wouldn't have had money to make canals except in very rich areas or in areas where it's absolutely critical, or, you know, stuff like that. But that's just all my personal opinion, but I would just recommend some stuff like that. Now, another thing that I'm just going to quickly talk about, transitioning to the next part of atmosphere, is well-placed flower. And I do this a lot. In my particular city, they're all red. And this goes hand in hand with theme, which I'm going to hop into quick here. But basically, by having a well-placed flower every so often, it just adds a splash of color. Because if you look at most of my buildings, they're all brown, gray, you know, light tan, or whatever the heck that is, yellow, I don't even know, but you know, stuff like that. But if you add a little splash of color, it just does so much for it, because now I've got blue for water, I've got green grass, and I've got just little patches of red. It's really nice. Now, you don't have to use red flowers, but that's what I've done in my city, and the reason I've done that in my city is because the theme of my city is kind of a reddish color. Now, there's no flags here, but here's a flag. There's red, this is just sort of a theme, and by having the flowers and the colors of the wool match up, you develop this sort of theme of, you know, just random little bits and tidbits of red and those kind of colors here. There's another thing right there. There's a red off in the distance, but I mean, not everything is red, mind you. I do have a few yellow flowers on the hill. I guess I can't see them from this distance, and there's going to be market stalls of other colors as well. But generally, the theme of the town is red, and by having the same color flowers as the theme of the town, it really does a lot to add atmosphere unconsciously. And a lot of atmosphere is very unconscious. You learn it and you can see it when you're looking for it, but most times, at least when I first look at a build, I try not to judge it based on specific categories. I try and let the entire feeling of the build just sink in upon me. I don't look at this building first to see how well, like, you know, how well things mesh up, like if these touched each other or whatever. I don't look at that at first. I look at the overall impression of everything first, which is, in my opinion, very important because it helps you see the atmosphere of everything. I happen to like this house, so I'm just kind of using it as an example. But yeah. Okay, so theme is important, and the way you can do it is using color. At least that's how I use it. But moving on here, next I'm going to talk about the terrain. Now, here it slopes a little bit. You see that? Now, a lot of people will go and start building stuff that's just completely flat. That makes me mad. You cannot build a good, well, at least medieval settlement on completely flat land. You can do other styles, and I'm kind of making this as a general tutorial as well as medieval, but in medieval building, you cannot build straight flat, or I will immediately not like it. So that's partially just me, but honestly, if you think about it, the medieval builders of this time would not have money to flatten everything, and such a flat area would just be so unlikely and uncommon and stuff that it just wouldn't make sense. I mean, as you can see here, this is a long stretch of flat land, but there's a hill over here and it goes down and it goes up. You can't have the whole entire settlement be uniform. That's a very important thing to keep in mind, and in my opinion it's one of the most stupid mistakes that you can make. No offense if anyone really likes flat building, but that's just my personal opinion. Let's see here, what else can I talk about? Okay, so next part of atmosphere is well, I guess it's still a part of atmosphere, but the closeness of everything. And this kind of goes hand in hand with the trees and blocking the view. This tree is really close to this house. These houses are so close together. Now if I took my entire city and spread it out by about 3 blocks, if I move this house 3 blocks away from this house, this one, if I basically made the distance between everything 3 blocks bigger, the city would not even be close to the same. It would not have the same atmosphere. And the reason for that is because when everything's close together, you just get this feeling of, you know, stuff is happening here. This place is having things happening. Close things together just generally makes that feel. And when you go out onto the ocean, it feels a lot more calming, but this feels a little bit more like a town, like people live here, you know, like people are doing stuff here. So that's one thing that you can contrast, and I just use the ocean because it's a giant, vast, open area, so pretty much a perfect example. So yeah, but yeah. So again, yeah. So I would say hand in hand with that also is you see these small walls here that I've got everywhere, and you know, depending on your style, you may or may not use lots of these. You might do more grass-based stuff, which this is always good, but just having these little walls everywhere adds a lot of atmosphere too, because in areas like this where there's a clearing, it still helps keep things not too open. Not that things being open is always bad, but by having little dividers here, it makes this whole area seem more fulfilled, because without these walls, if I put trees or something it might work, but if I just left this open, it'd be a blank spot and it would just be funny, and people would think, why isn't there something there? And there should be a building there or something. So I made it a little courtyard and a road and separated them like that so that it feels more that way. Let's see here. Another thing is, again, looking down from looking up like this, the relative heights of building is very important. Don't make all of your buildings the exact same height, and don't make them all way different. Now for me, because of my building style, all of them are almost exactly the same height. I will admit that's kind of a problem, but by doing hilly terrain, it's okay because they end up on different levels, and that's another advantage of using hilly terrain. You can be less varied in your building heights if you want to. So as you can see though, I'm just kind of looking up and stuff. It just looks really nice if you look up, and everything feels tall but not too tall. If I made these buildings another story, if I made them all another story, then this road would feel too crammed, and then I would have to expand everything. But for the relative height of how tall my buildings are, these roads are very well sized, so that's just a good example of that. Okay, another thing is moving parts. Now this is actually very hard, especially in Minecraft, but my torches here are Conquest torches, so I'm not going to use those as an example. But I am going to use this lamp as an example here. And I have the Conquest fire, but default fire isn't too much different. So as you can see, this is just sort of a general medieval lamppost design. I made this myself, and it's pretty nice, but what I've done is, I thought I originally had redstone lamp in there, but then I realized if I put fire in there, I had to turn fire off, because obviously it'll burn everything up and things, but by having that moving fire there, it's the only thing moving in this picture besides these stupid torches, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah, see? It's the only thing moving right now. And just by having that there, it just adds so much compared to if it's flat. It just makes it not an image, it makes it, like, it immerses you more. It makes you feel like you're there a little bit more than if it was just a still image. You know, a statue versus a person's going to be moving constantly. There's going to be a little bit of breath here and there. You know, you can see them breathing. You might see them twitch or something. But a statue is completely flat, and that's what makes a person, or something that's living. And you want your town to feel living. Sorry for saying that in such a roundabout way, but I was trying to figure out what I actually wanted to say with that. But yeah, so that's just a really nice way to add stuff. If you can't do fire, I mean, that's acceptable, but you know, torches can work too, or you can figure out stuff. That's not as essential, but in my opinion, if you can do it, you definitely should, because it's really cool. Okay, let's see here. I think I talked about randomization a little bit. I did a video about that already, actually, about how to randomize. I may actually end up redoing that a third time because that was a re-upload of a crappy video I did very long time ago. But essentially, what I'm talking about here is there's lots of different colors in this road. So it's not just all this whitish tile, and it's not all stone bricks or regular stone or gravel or anything. It's a mixture, and it's randomized. It's not always going to be exactly one thing. It's not gravel and then stone brick in the center and then gravel on the outside. I mean, you can do that, but it looks so much nicer, and this goes hand in hand with detail too. It just adds attention and you know, to everything around it, and it makes the city feel like not just a bunch of buildings grouped together, but it makes them feel like one whole entity. That's very important in town or city building. Let's see here. You can also use randomization to, as you can see here, I made things look pretty run down. I also talked about that a little earlier. But by doing that, what you can do is you can have like little grass growing here. That just makes it look like, you know, that's atmospheric as well, because that way, you know, there's a little block missing here. Why is this missing? They haven't replaced it yet because it costs too much money to maintain roads so well, you know. So that's why also in medieval style especially, you can have this mixture of road, and it'll not only look so much better, but it'll also make so much sense medievally. So that's just another thing you can do. I guess one other thing that I could talk about here is well-timed blank spots. Now, blank spots, I've talked about how they're kind of bad. I used that right there as an example a minute ago. But what you can do though is if you have, you know, if you have everything really detailed and pushed together and not crammed, but just feel, you know, close together and stuff, if you can do that, then what you can do is, I'm just going to go, this next area I'm going to show you guys is pretty unfinished, and I'm still working on it, but this area here is going to be relatively open, and I wanted it to do that so that it could open up into this keep more effectively, and the keep is not even close to done, but it's getting there. But like, I'm going to do some nice greenery stuff here, some bushes. Some well-trimmed bushes here around there and stuff, and it's just going to feel really opened and actually quite blank. And I mean, there'll still be stuff going on, but this road is massive. This is going to be the biggest spot of road in the entire city probably. So, you know, that's just something you can do. I don't know why that block is missing, but if you can have a well-timed blank spot, you can add attention to that area, but only if you use them rarely and only when, you know, it makes sense. Because if you use them everywhere, it doesn't draw attention. If you don't use them that often, then you use one, it draws so much attention, which is really important. And that's kind of psychology right there. But I mean, by having this blank spot, this wall just looks menacing and fortified, which is exactly what I was going for. So yeah. Okay guys, well, that's literally everything I could think of about atmosphere. I just wrote up a little notepad with the stuff on the side, and I pretty much improvised the rest of it. So I know I was a little roundabout with my statements, but I kind of wanted it to be that way so I could use actual examples of everything from the town. But anyways, guys, leave me feedback about this, because I know I want to know if you guys want this to be shorter and less in depth, or if you would prefer this to be more planned out and less improvised, or just what you guys think. Just tell me in the comments, and I'll be sure to respond and take it into account. So yeah, you guys have a great day. Comment, rate, subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.